If you're watching this, I assume that you're looking into your options of passing a miscarriage, and I just want to say I'm so sorry that you're in this situation. There's really nothing that can make it better. I wish I was there to give you a big hug. So I just wanted to give you a little bit of information about how I passed my miscarriage using Misoprostol, or commonly known as Cytotec. I went in for my first appointment at 10 weeks, where I had an ultrasound and they were unable to find the heartbeat, indicating that I had had a miscarriage. They dated the pregnancy as 9 weeks and 6 days, so I was almost to my 10-week mark when we came to this realization. It was definitely difficult considering this was my first pregnancy ever, and I was really looking forward to having a child with my husband. But that being said, I ended up having a miscarriage at 10 weeks, and what was called a missed miscarriage, in that I did not have any symptoms of miscarriage before my appointment and found out at my appointment when there was no longer a heartbeat. So at that point, it was a Tuesday, and my doctor came in and told me my options. He described that I could pass the pregnancy naturally and just let my body do its thing and wait it out, although there was no timeline on how quickly that would happen. My next option was to take Cytotec, which allowed me to pass the pregnancy on a scheduled day and be able to predict it. Or my third option was to have a DNC, which I like to avoid medical procedures where possible, so that wasn't my desired option. I initially wanted to let the pregnancy pass naturally, but working full-time and just being the kind of control freak that I am, I couldn't really wait it out. So I decided to take Cytotec, and I decided to take Friday off of work and pass the pregnancy that day to give me the weekend to recover, and potentially Monday as well if I needed to. So Thursday night, I went to the pharmacy to pick up the medication, and while I was there I also prepared with getting pads. I got size 5, size 3, and size 1, and ended up using all 3 at different times. So I highly recommend that. Alright, so Friday rolls around and I started the treatment in the morning. I had a light breakfast and took ibuprofen, and half an hour later I took the first dose. My doctor instructed me to take 4 tablets vaginally every 8 hours, or as needed, and he gave me up to 3 doses. So I took my first dose at 10 a.m., then just waited. And my husband stayed home from work that day, and we spent the day playing card games and board games and watching TV and just resting. And I had cramps all day, which were pretty manageable because I took ibuprofen, and other than that, there was no bleeding. So it was coming up on about 8 hours, and I was getting ready to take my next dose, so I took some more ibuprofen half an hour before my next dose was due, and went to the restroom and saw that I had 1 spot. So I was like, okay, this is a good sign. Something's happening because I've had these cramps all day and haven't seen a thing. So that was good. Then about 15 minutes later, I started feeling bleeding. And so I went to the restroom and realized that I had passed a big clot. And I took this as a good sign because I had started bleeding and things were starting to happen. But I wasn't really sure at that point in time what had just happened. So I went back to the couch and was looking up the difference between blood clots and fetal tissue, and realized at that point in time that fetal tissue is usually a whitish gray color, whereas clots are the color of blood. So I realized I just passed a clot. And while I was looking into the information, that's when I felt a huge rush and ran to the restroom and realized that it was fetal tissue at that point that was passing. That was a little alarming, and if blood or things like that gross you out, you may be better off taking a different option for your miscarriage. All of that happened within an hour, which really surprised me because it kind of went from 0 to 100. I had cramps all day, 1 spot, and then boom, everything. So it was really quick, and pretty intense for that 1 hour, and then afterward it was just like a really heavy period for the rest of the night. Going into the next day, it was again just like a period. The bleeding was very manageable. I continued to have cramps for the next couple of days, but it wasn't anything super intense, nothing that I hadn't experienced before, and nothing that couldn't be handled with ibuprofen. So that happened for the next couple of days, and then for the following week, I bled as much as just a normal period, and then the week following that, I experienced some more spotting and much lighter bleeding. So in total, it took about 2 weeks until the bleeding stopped and I really felt back to normal physically. Emotionally, that's a different story. But for now, that was my experience taking Cytotec. Overall, it was a pretty good experience. I was able to time the passing of my pregnancy. I was able to be prepared with feminine hygiene products. I was able to take the day off of work, which was extremely helpful, and my husband was able to stay home with me all day, and that was super helpful, not only for the emotional support, but also for the physical aspect as well. I'm super grateful I did not experience any side effects from the amount of blood loss, but it was really comforting to know that he was there in case I needed to go to the doctor for any reason or I needed help. So that was super great. Overall, I'm pleased with my decision of how to pass the pregnancy. It really wasn't too bad, and I hope you found this information helpful in making your own decision, and I'd love to be there to give you a big hug and cry with you because this is a terrible experience and terrible time. But just know that